Thank you very much. Thank you. So, isn't this topic of well-being so important right now? I've learnt so much from today, and I hope that each one of you have too. It's been a fantastically well-organised day, so thank you for that. But isn't it really hard to find something that's actually relevant for all of your employees in your organisation? I certainly know it's something that I've been struggling with. You might have one person who's off to do their 5th triathlon of the year or something, and there's somebody else who needs to focus on their diet and nutrition. And then you've got someone who's struggling to get out of bed in the morning because they're suffering from stress, anxiety and depression, either from the pressures at work or perhaps the pressures at home as well. So it's really important that we focus on this, and Cisco recognised the need to focus on this as well. So we've introduced the Cisco Pavelka Wellbeing Initiative, but just to touch on Cisco and who are we for a moment. So we're the largest networking company in the world. We built the internet. We have around 72,000 employees globally, and 3,500 of those are based in the UKI. I look after the EMEAR region, where we've got around 13.5 employees across 63 countries and cultures. So to put in place a wellbeing initiative that's going to touch on each and every employee in those areas was a bit tricky for me. But from a personal and professional point of view, I'm just delighted that we found the Cisco Pavelka initiative to bring to life for employees. For us, market transitions are really important. We've got to stay ahead with them as an organisation, and that's why we do a number of acquisitions, as you can see here. We're also really proud of our flexible working opportunities for employees. We have fantastic technology that enables them to work anywhere, anytime, and I'll touch on a little bit about that later. But our business wouldn't be anything without our people. And so it's really important that Cisco takes care of its people. And I'm delighted to say that they have invested in this initiative. And I'd like to introduce a short video to you to introduce you to our Health and Wellbeing Ambassador, Jesse Pavelka, and he's going to talk a little bit about what he's doing with Cisco. And then I'll come and touch back on it.
The Cisco Pavelka Initiative is about you. It's about small, sustainable changes you make every day that can have a massive impact. And the cool thing is this, it's completely inclusive. It's for everyone in the EMEAR region. So if you're in the UK, Poland, Israel, wherever you're working, you can connect with someone that's trying to achieve the same goals as you. You can work together, you can find accountability partners. So we're all on the same team here, which is really exciting. Cisco approached me because for the past 10 years I've been helping people all over the world find practical approaches to living well, creating healthy lifestyles for themselves so that they can feel good, feel healthy, and feel happy. Now, there are 4 elements that I've created that really add up to true health. Eat, sweat, think, connect. Now, I'm not prescribing you anything. You are the creator in this whole equation. You get to decide how you use the 4 elements in your life to make it work for you. You get to paint the picture, if you will. That's what makes this very cool. We're going to be using the same technology you guys use to connect every day to help make you healthy. I'm even getting my own DX80 so I can connect with you guys. There's going to be WebExes, a Spark room, and also an online Jive page so you can connect with the larger community. I get it, life happens. It moves in different directions and you never know what to expect, but the 4 elements grows with you. So I'm looking forward to working with you in this process.
So we asked Jesse to put together that video for our employees because it's important, and it's also really difficult to get communications out there sometimes to across that many people. But why was it an important initiative for us to introduce? And this isn't the only thing that we have around our benefits offerings, of course. We have great healthcare and other benefits which are important to employees, but it was about really getting down to true health. And Jesse has a fantastic philosophy around the 4 elements. We live in such a hyper-connected, busy world. I don't know about you, but how many times do you find yourself constantly connected to your device and probably looking at it before you go to bed at night? I know it's one area that I'm definitely still trying to focus on to get rid of that. Working remotely, so Cisco, as I say, has fantastic flexible working opportunities, but it does mean that our employees are often remote from their teams and don't even meet face-to-face sometimes for 6 months to a year at a time. So you can feel a little bit distant from the rest of the crowd. We're global organisations, so frequent late-night meetings often happens, and that can encroach into the family life. And so it's all about thinking about how you have that work-life integration and a bit of balance, and almost trying to think of not that work as that thing that you call it work, but integrate it into the whole life, and you've got to be happy what you're doing and healthy what you're doing as well. Stationary for long period of times. Again, I go from back-to-back meeting, and what we've done recently is put in those short breaks. So if someone sends me an invite for an hour long, I turn around and I say, would you mind, can we do this in 55 minutes or ideally 45 minutes? Sure as hell, you can get things done a lot quicker and more effective if you do that, and you have that moment in between the meetings to take that break that all of us absolutely need in the day. It is a fast-paced, changing environment that adds huge stress and anxiety to our day-to-day life, both in work and at home as well. So it's really important that we find ways to address that. And presenteeism, we've touched on it lots today, presenteeism and sick leave, it has that negative impact on morale and engagement. Ultimately, good health is good for business, and it's also good for the individual, which means it's good for the team and it's good for the company overall. A few years ago, we introduced something called our People Deal. Some of you may call this an employee value proposition, but what this is about is finding a way to embed employee experiences in Cisco through our People Deal. It's ultimately how we describe our culture at Cisco, and it's the vision of Cisco on a great day. Whenever we introduce these employee experiences, we look through the lens of our People Deal, and we find ways of showing that it connects everything, it innovates everywhere, and it benefits everyone. And luckily, as I talked about with Cisco, we have great technology. So when you think about the Cisco Pavelka initiative and talking about well-being across all those people, we use our technology to bring it to life. And ultimately, allowing employees to be their best version of themselves, both in the office but also at home, is really important to fuel creativity and innovation, which surely is what your companies are looking for. We want to create this inclusive environment, which is what Jessie talked about. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to well-being. Every single individual in this room will have a different area of well-being that you need to focus on. And it's all about finding really small, sustainable changes in each of the 4 elements of health that will bring this true health to life to each and every one of you. So we do have this unique opportunity, and what I love about it is using the technology as I talked about. Jessie talks about a DX80, by the way, and that's a Cisco telepresence product that we have. So we did deliver one to his LA office, which is where he is based. So he's working from LA to connect with us. He comes over on a regular basis so that we can go out to the large countries of the 63 that we have in EMEAR and connect with employees. And what it's about is bringing inspiration. It's inclusive. We want to make sure that employees become resilient in everything that they do. We use our technology to bring it to life, running webinars over Cisco WebEx, where we connect to all those 13,500 people. And we use Cisco Spark, and Cisco Spark is the ability to chat with each other. So you create this forum, this community, where you can chat, you can post your healthy selfies, or you can even upload videos where you might have gone for that 10-minute, 15-minute run in the morning, and people can see what you're doing and be inspired and motivated to go out and do their thing as well. So the community is really important. So what we also introduced is an online platform. It's called the Pavelka House for Cisco. And in this platform, you'll find education, resources, tools. It talks all about the 4 elements of health. And there's plenty of Pavelka experts within the house that is there to answer people's questions. So you can go onto the house, you can type your question, and an expert will answer it. What's also really cool about the Pavelka House for Cisco is not only do we provide it for each and every employee in the EMEAR region, but each and every employee can also invite a buddy into that house. So that buddy can be anyone. friend, family, another colleague in a different region in Cisco. And so I have my sister in the house, and she follows it regularly and posts on the forums. And every morning I can have a chat with her and talk to her about what's she doing around well-being. So it's not just about changing the lives of the employees, but it's also about taking it home to the family as well and bringing them in to showcase what a great organisation Cisco is to work for. So just have a little think about this. How many times have you missed breakfast in your life? I'm sure that a number of us have done it, and I know I certainly have as well. But times are busy, and you might find many excuses for not needing to take breakfast. But ultimately, if you drive a car, would there be fuel in it to get you going? And it's the same concept. You need to put fuel into your body to keep you going. So these are some of the things that Jessie focuses on, and they are really simple. But that's what's so unique about it. It's simple techniques to think about how you live your everyday life. How many times have you not wanted to get out of bed in the morning and go to work? I know Mondays are certainly a difficult one. Thankfully, not anymore for me because I've been living the Pavelka way. But when you have those moments, you need to think about what are the things that will get you out of bed in the morning? What are those things that you're grateful for? And take a moment to breathe before you jump onto the technology that you've got beside your bed, which needs to go into the other room, by the way. So Jessie talks about the 4 elements. And when we go on site to meet with the employees, we talk about each one of these. We run sessions, and we make sure that we get to the heart of what they are so that people can take away from those days and make sure they put the actions into place straight away. And again, going back to something, this is really simple stuff. But simple stuff is what's really important to embed it into your organisation. We have to think of food being fuel. Make sure that what you're putting into your body is going to have the right purposes to get you through the day. Consistency is really key. It's quite hard, I think, sometimes to have 3 main meals and 2 snacks. But if you're putting the right food onto your plate and it's the healthy stuff that keeps you going and you burn the energy properly, that actually ends up making a huge amount of sense. And those 3 main meals, by the way, they shouldn't be these enormous portions either. It's about adding variety and colour to your plate as well. So when you look at what you've got there, you think about, is this looking a little bit beige today? Do I need to add a little bit of green leaves or something? It really does make a huge difference. And every time that you're thinking about food, it's thinking about what is it that I should be eating. Healthy eating is ultimately a lifestyle choice. It is not a fad diet. There's nothing wrong with diets necessarily, but how sustainable are they really? Whereas if you make really small changes that are not difficult to do in your life, it makes it so much easier to keep those up for the long term. And you actually end up realising you don't need those rather unhealthy choices in the end after all. Again, when we go on site, we talk about sweat. And I like to think actually of it as movement. I don't particularly like the term sweat, but movement, and this comes in many different forms. There are people who literally, as I say, need to get out of bed in the morning and struggle to do that. So what we do when we go on site, we talk about those differences and make it inclusive to everybody. We do run boot camps, as you can see here, and that can be anything from people watching through to doing it at their own pace, through to really pushing themselves to get to that sweat moment. It comes in so many different forms, and we need to make sure that we're providing something for everyone. It's really important, as I said before, to find those windows of time every day to move. Since I've taken on this Pavelka way, what I've done, quite simply, is got up 15 minutes earlier. I used to think of this exercise as this big thing that I have to put in place, do 30 minutes, an hour, and what it meant is I just didn't find time to do it. But I get up 15 minutes earlier, I go for a jog down the canal, and it makes me feel so much better and set up for the day. So I just challenge you to take 5, 10, 15 minutes extra a day to move even more. Finding an accountability partner, this is a really interesting one, because ultimately, if you're on a wellbeing journey on your own, it's very difficult to keep it going. So when you find someone that you can share your story with and share your journey with, it makes a huge difference. And you'll see the impact on so many other people around you when you do this as well. They're that person that you think of when you don't want to get up those 15 minutes earlier and you think, well, they've probably gone for their boot camp or their run or their walk or something, so I ought to get out of bed as well. It really does make a difference. And Jessie talks all about getting out of your head and into your body. And this just means taking your body and your mind will follow. Taking your mind and your body will follow, actually. So it is important that your head can really rule so many different things and tell you why you shouldn't do something. The next two elements are actually, for me, the most critical. Each and every choice that we make in the day is our decision. It's nobody else's. So how you think about things and how you use mindfulness or mind power, whatever you want to call it, is really important. Paying attention to every single thing that you do and noticing different behaviours that you have throughout the day can really bring things to life for you. And setting intentions each day as well. So you go out and you set your intentions for what you're going to achieve, and don't make them too ridiculously big or too long a list of things. Breathing or meditating, whichever one you want to do. Breathing is such an important thing, clearly, for all of us to be doing, but we often don't even focus on it enough. And what I do now is, for in between meetings, I take at least 3 deep breaths in between those meetings to focus on what's the next subject going to be, rather than rushing from one to the other. When we do go on site, we do sessions where Jessie takes 2 minutes, he gets a clock up, and you have to watch the second hand for 2 minutes. And people just sit there quietly and focus on that second hand. And the impact of that and the feeling in the room afterwards is so powerful, it's unbelievable. It's worth giving it a go. Journaling, again, when you write things down, everything seems to be that little bit better. So journaling is something that people really get a huge amount of value from. And putting things into perspective. Life is so busy, but what we need to do is really think about, is it that important? What's going to happen if I don't do that massive thing that I've got on my plate today? And really put things into perspective and think about what is truly important in the world. And connect. So we connect via technology, obviously, but actually when Jessie talks about connect, it's all about connecting with yourself. If you're not healthy, then how can you possibly look after those loved ones around you? It's connecting to that other person, so having that accountability partner to keep you on the journey. And then connecting to a group. So we work in teams and we work across countries. And when you connect with a group, the value for us is doing it over the technology, where we're able to set up these spark rooms. And it doesn't matter which country you're in or whether you're a remote worker, you can feel so connected to those individuals as you're posting to each other and sharing your motivational stories and journeys. And then there's this thing about connecting to something greater than you. And this can be anything, really. I like to think of it as nature. It can be religion. It can be anything that you want it to be. But it's really where you do take yourself out of that moment and go into something that's just a little bit bigger than you to put things back into perspective. So what are some of the things that we're actually doing with Jessie Pavelka? As I say, we've got the Pavelka House for Cisco. And what's wonderful about this is just recently we've noticed that so many employees are coming forward with their stories. We held a session yesterday during something called our Together We're Better Week, which is part of our inclusion and collaboration organisation who put this together. And we were running a webinar, and we invited a few people to share some of their personal stories. And I've never seen such a huge impact of what happened. We had a leader on the call, and I spoke to him a little bit beforehand, and I said, I'd love you to share your personal story. And he said, I'm not sure if I want to on that sort of forum. But when somebody else had talked about the depression they'd gone through when they were young, how they were struggling to get through their exams, and how they'd come into Cisco. They were a very young individual on a graduate program, and she shared how she found the Wellbeing Initiative at Cisco so important and how it has changed her life. This leader then got up and he talked about his journey, where he had gone through life in Cisco. He'd been there for like 16 years, and he had suffered a very serious heart attack. And he had to take a big deal of time out of Cisco. Cisco fully supported him through the healthcare plans that we have and the disability and the time off that we give to employees. But it's about coming back into the environment and how you support people when they come back. And he was blown away by the support that his team and his leaders gave him. And he's found ways using the Pavelka philosophy to really get through those difficult times. He actually broke down on the core, which shows vulnerability. And again, vulnerability is such a powerful thing. And we're really encouraging this more and more in Cisco. What we also do is ask employees to share their stories in the house. So people write articles, they might do videos, they can do podcasts, and we load them up into the house because when other employees go in and read those stories or watch those videos, they really connect with it and they think, well, if that person's going through something, it's similar to something I've got going on in my life. I might reach out to them so you can comment back on the article, or I might just take it in myself and take some learnings from it. People are motivated and inspired by each other, and they come back into the workplace much more resilient because they've been supported by Cisco. So we run monthly webinars. It's quite hard. Obviously, there's one guy, Jesse Pavelka, and there's a huge community at Cisco. So it's quite hard. We use our technology, as I mentioned, to put it across there. But there's also the experts that he brings into it. But what's key to also getting the message out there is having pioneers in each location, and actually in each site. So 63 countries, many more sites. But when you have pioneers, so individual employees just putting up their hand and saying, I see this as an important topic, I'd love to be part of it, and I want it to bring it to life in my site. Not only does that save the company money by having people do that, but it also makes it much more real because you haven't got somebody like me from the UK telling the team in Israel what they need to do around well-being. You have the Pavelka pioneers coming to us and telling us what they need from the Pavelka team and myself to actually bring it to life for their employees. And what's important is working really closely with the facilities team as well. If you haven't got a healthy environment to operate in, then employees can't make those healthy options and choices. So connecting in with the different functions to bring it to life for employees is really key. We offer prizes, so we set up competitions and challenges. We've got a challenge going on at the moment where one of the Pavelka team, they're swimming the English Channel in a month or so. So what we've done is set up a stroke counter in the house where employees can go in. They don't have to do swimming, but we've put it in so you can track if you've done a walk, a run, a cycle, and it converts it into strokes. And so there's a challenge open to all employees and their buddies who've joined the Pavelka House for Cisco. And it's about reaching that goal that Jill from the Pavelka team is doing to swim that challenge. And they'll win prizes that we have on offer, either one-to-ones with Jessie, or books or water bottles or things like that. So those live events are really important. But one of the key things I do want to mention is the Inspire stories. So there's an individual in Cisco who started working with us. She's a leader in Cisco, and she had a moment in her life. She had gone home and showed a video that one of her colleagues had recorded for her to say what a fantastic job she'd been doing, how thankful they were. She played it to her family because she was really quite proud of it. And they turned around and said, "You don't show up like that at home." So she decided this was a turning point for her. She absolutely wanted to go on a journey of well-being and find ways to be more powerful and more present both in the workplace but also at home. So Jean became our Inspire story, and we created a TV show for her. She had been struggling with diet throughout her life. She learned how to live the Pavelka way and embrace the 4 elements of health. And the TV show talks all about that for employees to be inspired and motivated and find ways themselves to use the 4 elements to live the Cisco Pavelka way. So I think there's many times that we can find excuses for why we don't want to live well and why we, find it so hard. But ultimately, we need to focus and get those employees thinking about what is it that they can do. We can provide as many benefits and great programs as we like, but ultimately find something that really hits home to each and every person in your organization. make them feel included, make it feel relevant for them. So I'm Sheila Champion-Smeeth. I am an EMEAR Total Reward Consultant, but ultimately I really am passionate about people. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you've taken something from it. Time for Q&A?
A couple of questions.
Okay, yeah.
Fantastic. Cool. Use the mic over here. So many thanks, Sheila. That was a great presentation, and we've had some good questions. So I think there's a couple of questions around the same theme that I'd like to sort of just follow up a bit on, which is, did this reach those that really needed it? Or did you find that the ones that were already healthy bought into it for the most part, and the others passed it back?
That's a really good question. And yes, I do believe that it has reached all kinds of people. So when Jesse's on site in the location, you'll find lots of fitties, if you like, coming up to him, having a chat about, you know, how do they take this next step, this next level into their fitness regime. But what's really interesting, those people that really need it, they're the ones I'm talking about who share their stories in the Pavelka House for Cisco, because they want different ways of sharing it. So they really bring it to life, and they're really heartfelt stories as well.
That's great. And do you have any sort of rough feel for what percentage of your workers have signed up for the...
I do, yes. We have... So there's 13.5 employees and 13,500 employees in the EMEAR region, 63 countries. Out of those 63 countries, we've hit 43 of them, which is, I think, is pretty significant because a lot of them have a really small population. So we have members in the Pavelka House for Cisco in 43 countries, and we have 2,000 members in the house at the moment, and that's having only really launched for about 6 months to a year.
Oh, that's great. And then just finally, we've talked a lot about data today, which is great. How does the data work for you? What's your...
Well, I was waiting for the data question and the tables that I've been in today. I've kind of, you know, ultimately for me, data is really important. Being an organisation like Cisco, it's incredibly important. When it comes to this topic, I just don't know that data really answers the question as to whether each and every individual is living a healthy and resilient life. So we do have metrics, of course, engagement. We have feedback surveys after events and all sorts of things like that. And we can do analytics around where people are using the house and which areas they go into it. But for me, it's about how many of those stories we're getting in and the impact that we're having on people's lives. And when you ask the pioneers what's going on in their sites, that's what's really critical for me.
That's great. Sheila, many thanks indeed. There's been a great presentation this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.